Hey guys, and welcome to the Nashville for Nobodies podcast. I am your host, Bobby Gordon, along with my co-host,
Kyle Therky, and we're going to be talking about the Nashville music scene and the ins and outs of Lower Broadway and a bunch of other random stuff that comes to mind.
So if you're thinking about Nashville or new to Nashville and want to wrap your head around what's going on, this might be a great place to start.
Take a listen.
What's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Therky with Nashville for Nobodies.
And Bobby Gordon, and we are doing a long-awaited episode because our last episode was like a month and a half ago or something like that. Kyle, buddy, how have you been?
I've been good, man. Busy as hell. I can't complain. I was sick for like a week and a half, and that sucked. Whatever the crud that is going around downtown, I definitely got it, and that was awful. But thankfully it went away before my trip to New York, because that's what I was worried about. I was like, man, I don't want to be getting on a plane and just like coughing like crazy before I go to New York. And that's not where I want to be. So thankfully got better before then, and went to New York, had a good time for my birthday, came back, went straight into gigs, just being busy. How about you, man?
Man, I complained so long about not getting gigs, and then I got so many gigs, and they were meh gigs, and now I'm like, you know what, I'll take 3 or 4 of like gigs that I want to play, and that'll be it.
Yeah,
I can't do the grinding with people that I don't particularly enjoy.
That's fair. It's a whole different beast, because sometimes you just never know who you're gonna get thrown with,
mm-hmm.
and then there are people that you're just like, no, I've done it and I'm good, I don't want to. So
but yeah, I'm being a lot more selective, but I mean, my home life situation allows me to be selective and requires me to be selective to a point. So for at least right now, it's working out good. Now that slow season is kind of ramping up, or not ramping up, however you want to think about it.
We're falling into slow
right.
season. Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to keep that mentality. But as of right now, at least, like I'm playing the gigs that I really enjoy, and I think that's most beneficial for me and the people I play with.
Oh, yeah, 100%. When you're not in that grind and becoming jaded and doing it because you love it and playing with people that you love and they're fun gigs, mm-hmm. it's a whole different ballgame. And I'm so lucky that I get to play with the people that I play with and where I play, that I don't have to do 15 gigs a week anymore, even though I am doing a triple tomorrow and a double Friday.
But you don't have to.
But I don't have to. They're literally all with bands that I like. Noah Garner, Todd Cameron, Hudson Valley, and then my band. So it's all bands that's like I enjoy being on stage with. Speaking of bands I enjoy being on stage with, since we have a camera now, I can't go on for 10 minutes talking. People can see our guest. We do have a guest today, and it is Mr. Scotty Mac. Welcome in, Scotty. How you doing?
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me.
I'm so nice to finally meet you. It's like Kyle's talked about you several times, even on the podcast, and I was like, he's got a cool name. Bet he's fun.
Well, long-time listener, first-time caller, so I'm so grateful to be invited out. Thank you.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for always listening. I mean, every time I do play with you, Scotty calls me for fill-in gigs when his main guy is out. He'll hit me up, and I really enjoy sharing the stage with him. And every time I see him, he's like, dude, I love the podcast. I love listening to it. I mean, your whole band is that way with me, and it's awesome, man. I appreciate it. So.
Yeah, no, we love it. It's nice for a couple reasons. One, obviously, it's cathartic because we all run into a lot of similar situations and frustrations, and so it's good for that. But also, it's insightful. It's probably one of my favorite things about just music in general is when you can kind of find that access behind the curtain and see what everybody else is up to. Whether that be the folks on our level that are just really grinding it out, or even finding out, the background stories on some of the majors and things like that. It's very relatable.
Yeah, and Bobby and I were talking earlier before the podcast just how similar a lot of us are, and our stories are so similar in how we got to town. And one of the things I was excited about having you come in, we'll get to your background here in a little bit, but you didn't do Nashville like a lot of us did. You kind of came here with your band. You had something built out in California before you started coming here, correct?
Yeah, we got. I got really lucky with that. We are. I mean, you've seen it. We treat it like a family business. So
yes.
When it came time to make the jump, we all over the course of about a year all made it out here. We've been coming out here for a long time. My first trip out here was in 2014. And shortly after that, I was out here writing and recording. We did our first record or EP out here in, I think, 2014. And then, back and forth for a couple years. And we've been playing Ole Red since the first year they opened.
Okay.
We got kind of an interesting introduction into that. So we were flying out here like monthly up until COVID.
Yeah,
hit.
they were bringing you guys out here to play at Ole Red, correct?
Yeah. And to be clear, we were bringing ourselves out because I don't want anybody. I don't want anybody else who's
Sorry,
playing there.
I
being
misspoke.
Like, wait. Because obviously we know some of the ins and outs and the luxuries we get, maybe going to Vegas and things like that, where there's some accommodations made there.
Right.
But we would go home and play and just really stock away money to cover the airfare to get out here. We'd get Airbnbs. I got a buddy who lives in town that for a while we were just crashing with him. And, we made it happen. We'd fly out on a Friday, do 2 closing shifts, and go from the Saturday, like from the stage, grab our stuff, Waffle House, and on the 5:30 a.m. flight back so I could be home by the time my kids were waking up.
That's awesome.
That's crazy. So you're from Southern California?
Yeah, so the whole band kind of got formed in, coastal Orange County area. I actually grew up a little further out. I think a lot of people don't realize that when you're in California, when you get, 35, 45 miles away from the coast, it becomes desert pretty quickly.
Yep.
I mean, unless you're in a major metropolitan area like Los Angeles or San Francisco, the minute you get out of that, it becomes desert and farmland. So I grew up kind of out towards the Palm Springs area in a little town called Hemet, farm town, dairy town. And yeah, that's where I was raised. And I moved out towards the coast to go to school and stuck around because I was making money and life was good.
So when did music start to come into play in your life?
I mean, professionally in my 20s, I had done kind of the same thing everybody else did. I got a guitar in high school and wanted to play and wanted to start a band. And, I'm looking at your Blink-182 poster here. They were obviously the biggest thing at the time. So it was a lot of pop punk, a lot of stuff like that, trying to get things going with my buddies. Really wanted to get better, so I actually got into playing metal with some friends of mine just because I wanted the chops. But then it got to a point where it's like, well, I can't really like what am I going to show my girlfriend's mom how I play Master of Puppets? So I at some point show me, play something for me, little Pantera or something. But I finally got an acoustic guitar, and that's really where I started playing, wine bars or whatever I could get in Orange County. Played a lot of Dave Matthews Band stuff and just whatever I could that would get me out in front of people.
Were you always singing and playing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, once I got into that part, I just realized I needed to figure out a way to get in front of people and hopefully, make a little bit of money. I'd get like $100 or something to go sit and play all night in the corner of some restaurant in their cocktail lounge.
Yep, been there.
Yeah, same way everybody else
Still
does.
there sometimes.
I had this thing where I would just like pick a spot on the wall, like slightly up, usually slightly up and to the left for some reason. So it was just over the line of sight of people that didn't care what I was doing, but just enough in their direction to where it looked like I was engaged, because some of those gigs were just brutal.
Oh, yeah. A lot of times people don't even like realize you're there.
No, you're a wallflower.
Yep.
In that thing. If there was a game on, I'd watch. I don't even really care for sports, but I just zone out, and watch the game, and play Brown Eyed Girl or whatever, Sweet Virginia.
So when did you start playing country music?
So honestly, it's a funny story. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I was raised around, my dad was a big music fan, so I was raised on a lot of classic rock and stuff like that. But I remember like a couple specific records, like always on rotation, like Dwight Yoakam's big record was a big one. Dixie Chicks, a lot of Garth Brooks and stuff like that. Like my parents had those kind of in regular rotation. But I just remember being, specifically in Southern California, they were just always telling us it wasn't going to work. And I thought that was such a funny thing, especially considering Stagecoach was so hot. And it was like, even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the culturally very cool thing to go do was to go to Stagecoach. But you'd go out and kind of, like when we started this band and got it going, we'd go out and people would be like, oh yeah, country music's never going to work here, sorry. and so, you know, I'd slip a little bit of it into my acoustic gigs. But I remember very specifically being at a New Year's Eve party at a bar that one of my other bands had played at quite often, and they were just playing all sorts of top 40 stuff, and they rolled into Chicken Fried, and the dance floor got packed. And I just remember looking at that going, okay, it's time to figure this out. And around that same time, you know, Brett Young was from that area, and I used to do a lot of acoustic stuff with him.
Okay.
And he's actually the one who gave me the name Scotty Mac. And I don't really tell that to a lot of people, but he was always really, really good about hosting these jams, you know, because he was playing acoustic all the time. So he'd always have people come out, and it was like this very cool community thing that he set up. And just randomly one night, when I was going up to sing, he announced me in front of a room full of people as Scotty Mac, and I remember getting like really like thrown off by it, but it just kind of stuck. And you know, he at the time he was kind of starting to make his trips out here, and he was telling me like, dude, like, I think you need to go and check it out. Like, it's really more, it's just so much better than what the LA music scene's going to provide for guys like us. And so it all kind of started around that time.
So with that being said, give us like a glimpse of what the music scene in LA looked like.
LA was always really tough. I did do stuff up there. I mean, I played a Hotel Cafe one time for a showcase, and I saw some other people there. LA's tough because it's just nobody cares about anything. I'm just going to come out and say that. I was not a fan of playing anything in LA. Now, in Orange County, the Inland Empire, it really thrived out there for a while. We are obviously a little checked out of it right now. I haven't really seen what's going on, but it did thrive. Line dancing's big in California and Arizona, so you know, I know it's not super common out here, but a lot of the bars out there have this like line dance culture.
Yeah, every bar I've played out in California, they've always had line dancing like lessons before we go on.
Well, that's fun.
Like,
it can be. I'm curious to see what you know, what things look like at Category 10. I want to go check that out because I know that they've kind of reverted to what the Wild Horse was doing with the line dancing thing. And you know, my guitar player Brian was over there checking it out over the weekend. He's like, yeah, no, it's really cool, man. Like, it's line dance, but not focused line dance. You know, they're doing the stuff, but the band just kind of play. In California, the one thing that really frustrated me, and we had some killer, like there's this place in Long Beach that's been there forever called Cowboy Country. And I mean, it's a legit honky-tonk. Massive place, not where you would expect like a honky-tonk to be, but multiple dance floors, mechanical bull, mirrors on the walls, and It's like a biker bar. I mean, it's legit. But you go up there and you play your 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off all night. And I just, like, a really good example is there's this one old cowboy dude that would come up every time we played there and be like, give me something that I can 10-step to. And it's like, I don't know what that means, dude. Like
what?
Yeah.
10-step?
Yeah, 10-step. Like, and
I only got to 2.
Yeah.
I stopped at 2-step.
Yeah, and it's like, it's basically just something, it just a particular type of song. The only song we had that they could 10-step to was Mama's Broken Heart, because we used to have a female that would co-front with me.
Okay.
And that's all I remember about it, but that's where, for me, it became difficult, because you're out there, and it's like, we've got all these great songs that we worked really hard on. We're only playing a line dance bar maybe once a month, and they don't want to dance to any of the stuff you want to play, so they just get like pissed off and walk off the dance floor.
Right.
You know, and then my other thing is, and you know, Kyle, you may have experienced this, they want you to count them in every time. So it's like, I gotta 2, 2, 3, 4, or whatever, and start the lyrics at the right time. And it's like, y'all just like, I can swear in this microphone.
Oh, you say whatever
you want.
Just fucking count yourself in. You know the dance. You know when it starts. Like, you don't need me to do that for you and make it difficult.
Right.
And that's where it became kind of draining, because it's like you don't count them in, and then they're all standing there looking at you like you're the asshole for it.
Yep.
It's like, man, I'm just up here trying to do my thing.
Yeah, it's funny because there's people here that'll do that. Like when you go to play a song downtown and they know they're going to line, they're gonna line. I can't talk today. Line dance to the song, and they're like, "Why didn't you count us in?"
Yeah.
We're worried about us. I'm not worried about you.
What
You find the beat and start going. Somebody is doing it right. Follow them. You'll be at it.
Yeah, why didn't you count us in, actually?
Yeah.
Like, we're doing the work up here.
We spent all the time and effort learning how to play this. Like, least you could do is figure out when to dance.
We had some line dancers at Old Red the other night. I did a private event, and most of them were pretty cool, but there was this one older lady, man, just so entitled and in every way. And it was Veterans Day, so I sang Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, and of course she had to start shouting political things, and I'm like, that's not what this song is about.
Yeah.
Like, this is not, or what my message is geared towards right now. Like, can we please stop? And it was just awful.
I have to laugh about that. We're actually playing that this weekend because I get requested for that one every weekend. And, you know, I know he's mentioned a little bit, like, we're not a request band.
Right.
We got a set. Everything's on playback and all slated in and all that. And, you know, I have actually opened up, like, a small segment as, like, a time killer where I'll try and, like, acoustically just hammer out 3 or 4 songs that people are asking me for, just, you know, kind of give them the nuts and bolts and move on so people don't get too mad. But that one gets asked for every night. And so far, I'm like, all right, let's just get it done. And I'm really curious to see how it's going to be right now. And I'm definitely not going to take this down the road of politics because that ain't my style.
Or
but
ours.
I get the same way. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm here just to make people happy. And do they get into all the chanting and all that? It's like, all right, I'll let it go on for a little bit. But, you know, the one thing I try and really focus on with that is like, can we just make this the one place where we can all be happy and everybody can have a good time? Like, let's not alienate anybody.
For that song, when I talk about it, I'm like, you know, are there any veterans in the house? You know, past or present, you know, raise your hands, and we acknowledge them. And I'm like, this is for y'all. Mm-hmm. This is specifically for y'all. I'm doing this song for you guys. And there's always, at least now, there's always one person that's got to make it political, and you're like, damn it, that's not.
Well, yeah, and man, like, I guess we can talk candidly here because you know, for anybody who's like listening in, like, I want to make it very clear, like, I have very little preference on anything in life. I have a very, like, I remember I got into a discussion one time with somebody and I was like, yeah, I don't really know how to tell you, like, how to approach that because you're from a different walk of life than me. Like, I'm very middle of the road and I get affected by things on both sides of the political spectrum, you know, and just because I'm a, you know, follower of Jesus and things like that, and I'm obviously going to lean a little bit more conservative, it doesn't mean that I don't see the common sense thing. So now back to what I was getting at, like, I'll look out there and it's like, I can clearly see that, you know, we'll have, you know, some trans folks in the audience or something like that. And it's like, they're having fun, man. Like,
Yeah.
Don't anybody. You never know who's going to be there, what they're going through. Don't make it about that.
Yep.
Like, my whole thing of standing out there is everybody who's in that room deserves to feel good and escape from all the crap that we're being beaten over the head with on the news.
Everybody in that room deserves to be in that room and have a good time.
Exactly.
I mean, isn't that kind of the whole art shtick? It's
Yeah.
like it's
Supposed to
for
be.
everybody, and
Yeah.
it is how you want it to be. It fits your world, and like if you see, you know, paintings or hear music that make you feel a way, then that's how it is. It's
And
not
Just enjoy it. Don't start shit.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you know, and I got some thoughts on that as well from some other pop culture, political, social commentary things that we've all been through, like the Bud Light thing and all that, you know. But you know, we have a walk-on track, and we really had it built out for when we were doing like original music showcases. But it's 60 seconds, and we use it every night because it really just gives us that minute to go, okay, time to get into the mode. Let's go.
Right.
It's actually really nice. Like, it does. It gives you that moment to just be like, all right,
Yeah.
We're ready to do this.
We're ready to do this. We're done sound checking. Everything's straight. But I do use it as like I use it as a pre-show prayer, and Kyle's heard it. And I'm always, the whole point of my pre-show prayer is just, I'm very thankful that we're up there. I'm thankful that we have people joining us that are helping us out. But the last thing I always ask for is just like, it's a strange world outside those doors. You know, God, let us use these gifts to just make people happy tonight. If there's somebody out there that needs to be reached, that's all I want to do.
Yep.
You know, and if you can keep it, for me, if I can keep it in that mindset, like, I just feel so good about what we're standing up there doing, whether it's for a packed house or a non-packed house. Like, I'm up there to make people happy because it's what makes me happy.
And it shows 100%. I've watched your show as well as been a part of it, and it shows. Like, you guys are up there having a good time. You're trying to make sure everybody's having a good time. Y'all are giving it your all. Everything you have, every ounce of energy you have, you're giving it on stage. Brian, John, you guys are insane.
Well, and bottom line is you can only give it that much attention and that much energy if you want to do it.
Yeah.
And to want to do something, you have to be in a positive mind space.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be miserable, you can't be upset, you can't be stressed. Like, you have to let all that go if you really want to give it that attention. And so having something like, whether it's a prayer or not, or a 60-second walk-on track or whatever, like something that kind of take you outside of everything else and bring you into what you're doing, can help with that tremendously.
Yeah.
And then if you're going to put that much energy into the show, then that's going to pull everybody else out of whatever they've got going. Man, I've said it a million times. If you're having fun, really having fun, they don't have a choice.
Yeah. I mean, it blows
You're
me
totally
away
right.
when you walk into some of these places. And, you know, and you can kind of, and I don't want to, like, stereotype people, but you see, like, the super, like, just crusty player up there.
Yeah.
And you, hey, man, good set. And, you know, and it's like, or not. It sounded good. Was it fun? You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, it must suck. Like, I work a corporate job, and I got a great job that I love, but I've worked a lot, you know, in a lot of situations that I don't like, and it's like, how can this be the room that you're not happy working in?
Right.
Like, you're literally just, I always tell people, like, man, we're all just dickheads playing guitar. That's my common go-to. Like, when you run into these musicians, or even people with record deals, and they just got these, like, attitudes about them, it's like, dude, we're all just a bunch of dickheads making money to play guitar. And we had a buddy of mine who sat in with us. He plays bass for Thomas Rhett, and he helped us out one weekend when we needed a sub. And we're sitting there in the lobby at Old Red, and we're talking. You know, this lady came up, and she was waiting for friends and just wanted to talk. And she's like, you know, I'm not bugging you, am I? I was like, nah, we're cool. We're just chatting. And long story short, we got to the point, and he put it better than anybody I've ever heard. He goes, my wife does social work. That's real work. He goes, I get paid to move air, and that air makes people feel things. Like, this is not a real, there's way more people out there doing more important work than me.
100%.
And when you put it in that perspective, it's like, yeah, that's we're all just here to make people feel something.
Yeah.
So why not make them feel good?
Yep.
And I'm belaboring this now, but you got me all excited because it's just, I love it so much, man. I just love being up there.
Same. And when I saw you guys before y'all had asked me to play, because you guys would either play before or after us at Old Red. So I'd seen you guys several times. And so when you asked me to play with it, I was like, oh, shit. I got to step up my game. Because your band is so tight. I mean, you guys have been playing together for a long time. You have a show. And that's another thing I really like playing with you guys is it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. And now, like with Todd Cameron and Hudson Valley, I've been playing with them for so long. I kind of know how the show's going to go, and we do certain things, say no to certain things. You know, like but your show is tight. We know exactly what's coming up next, where we're going, how we're doing it. Every now and then, you might skip something, come back to it, and having the count-ins, the tracks. I used to always be like, oh, I would never do that on Broadway, and doing it with your show was so much fun because it allowed me to do what I like to do, and that's to go out there and perform and play for people and not have to think about learning a song on the spot, and it allows me to entertain.
Well, and there's two things I'll say about that. One, that was a big conversation, and I know he's going to hear this, and so John, I love you to death, but
Shut up.
John, my drummer, that was a big, I don't want to say, it was never a debate. We have it's a family thing, so everything is we agree upon, but that was a big thing. It's like, well, do we really need this here? I can just count it and out, and it's like, look, man, like when we're running around, especially as these stages get bigger and bigger, Brian and I and, Aaron or whoever's playing bass, we can't turn around to look for that.
Yeah.
Like we're out there trying to give those people a thing. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that. Like when, I see, people putting their in-ear feeds on Instagram and so you can hear how they're doing it. And you always get the old Weekend Warrior player that's still rolling around with the 4x12 cab that's like, oh, such a sterile way of playing. And it's like, but he's saying it to somebody who's playing on a stage with all the lights and screens and everything. Right. It's like, guys, in this day and age, this stuff's all time-coded.
That's the only way to do that.
Yeah, there's no way that all this stuff works in sync without that.
Yeah.
And also, I don't think people realize, like, how little we all hear in our ears other than exactly what we want to hear.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, man, I don't know what's going on. Like, I feel the drums through my body because they're behind me, but I don't have that stuff in my ears because I don't need to rely on it.
Yeah, the only thing I ever have drum-wise in my ears most time is just kick.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just so
and I see it for your role, I mean, as a drummer, what are you rolling into your ears when you're playing? What do you like?
Bass is heavy. Bass is heavy, and I've got enough guitar to where I can accent some of the lead stuff, but bass is heavy, and then if there's a rhythm, I've got that in there.
Yeah.
But
and
that's about it.
Maybe just enough vocals for reference. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that makes sense. But
I'm curious, what do you have in your ears?
So if you go into my ears, it's vocal first with a ton of reverb. And that's always one of my biggest struggles when we're checking at a new place. I mean, dude, I'm swimming in it. It sounds like like one of those legacy crystal delays on a guitar.
That's something I had never heard until probably the last year and a half. Like, I'd never heard a vocalist mention having reverb in their ears. And then for like the last year and a half, it's like everybody, they're like, just crank it, like all of it. Give me all of it. And if it's too much, then I'll say something. But I've never had to say something.
Yeah, and it's a very particular type. I actually got one of the guys to give me the specs on it. Like, to get mine right, they went in, they EQ'd it, and they did all sorts of stuff. And dude, when it's right, again, it's like swimming. It makes singing so effortless in those ears. But it's that. I got click and slate. I've got my guitar pulled, but it's just in there for a reference. So one, I know I'm not out of tune, two for pitch, and then maybe a little bit of tracks, because I can hear so much, specifically in that room. I can hear so much from just the great mix that they have. Like, those are some of the best sound guys in this town.
Oh, by far.
So yeah, it's mainly vocal, click, slate, and then guitar after that.
Okay.
But the other thing what do I want to say? We're talking about counting in and putting on a good show, but that's the thing. It's I don't think people realize. Like, I remember going and seeing Dave Matthews again. I'm going to go back to that, and they do this like shtick where when they're playing Ants Marching, it's like these syncopated hits behind the solo thing, but it's like 1, 2, and pause, and the guy's still fiddling away, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's always randomized, and everyone's always like so amazed by it. It's like, guys, there's 7 people on that stage. Like, they're not just doing that.
Right.
They're not telepathically prompting each other. There's somebody that might go, all right, give them the 7. All right, on 3, triplets, whatever. And so I don't think people realize that at all levels of putting on a big show, exactly how much orchestration is going on behind the scenes to make that work.
Yeah.
And I love playing the tracks. I am at the point where I would love to have like a 6 or 7 piece band and start moving off of it a little bit, just somewhat, because it's just where I'm at in life. But, as we all know, the more people you add, the harder it gets, the less the money is and all that. And it's just not life. It's just not real life for most of us.
Right.
But it's made us very tight, because the track rules the roost, so you have to learn to play to the track.
No arguments. Yeah. Nobody can blame anybody, because you were either on it or you weren't.
Well, and what's really great is like when there's solos and stuff, it'll tell you, okay, chorus, and it'll count you back in, or bridge, or like wherever his tracks lead you to where the hell you're going. And that's why I said, like, I don't have to think about what I'm doing. I can just go out there. I know the song, so I just have to make sure I'm playing the right part, but I don't have to think about anything else. I can just entertain. And it's fantastic.
And we've all been there where we're like, is this the first chorus or second chorus? Is this the bridge?
Well, 'cause
where are we? I ADHD'd the hell out of this.
Especially when you play the songs so many times, and if you're playing it multiple times a day, it's easy to get away from that. So,
and I don't think people also like. I mean, how many you say you're doing 3 or 4 a week?
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, so I don't think people realize, like, in a good way, how, like, on autopilot you can get. Like, and I mean, like, not phoning it in, but, like, muscle memory. So you got to be careful about, like, looking at what's going on in the room and in the crowd. And I don't think people realize, like, how much we can see from up there. And that's a big distraction sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
We can, by the way, unless there's lights, like, directly above us, we can, I mean, for one, we can see everything in front of us. Everything in front of us, we can see. Now, if there's a second floor or level and there's lights, it's a little bit harder, but we can still see. We know what's going on.
Yeah. No, we see a lot from up there.
Yeah.
We see a lot. Well, I guess let's shift gears on that because I don't think anybody cares to hear me talk about playback tracks all day. What's the craziest thing you've seen? Oh, sorry. Did you have something to ask?
Yeah. So I was going to go back a little bit to how you got your band together.
Okay.
It was through a Craigslist ad,
It was, yeah. So that going back, that whole chicken fried story, I was like, all right, I want to do this. Like, and so I put out this ad, and John was the first one to call me. And so our original conversation was, I had not met my wife yet. It was just a couple months shy of before I met her. And I was like, look, man, I don't want to take this very seriously. I want to go out. I want the music to be good, but let's, rehearse once, twice a month, gig once or twice a month. I want to drink beer. I want to play good music, meet some chicks. I want this to be a fun bar band. And our first gig was backing, I'm embarrassed to say it, and this not so ideal Elvis impersonator, because I don't want to be unkind.
Okay.
He was an Elvis impersonator, and I love Elvis. My wife's a huge Elvis fan, but this was like not the ideal environment or situation for that. So we had to learn like, a dozen songs or something for him, and then we got to go on after him because they thought everyone was going to filter out and do like an hour, and it went like pretty well for us. And we're like, okay, maybe we're onto something here. And next thing you know, like I had mentioned, Brett was like, oh, you should come out here and record some of these songs you've been working on. Recorded an EP. EP got us booked on some festival gigs. Weird, just kind of one thing led to another. I did a charity gig up in Nevada. We had opened for Mark Chestnut. And then I got booked on their festival and so on and so forth, and that led to more stuff. And next thing you know, seems like we're out here trying to make it work. And, but that was really kind of the formation of it. It was just something that was not supposed to be serious, and it took over pretty quickly.
So you did the thing in California for a while. So what did recording bring you out here to Nashville, or?
Recording's what started it. And then after that, I was trying to write. I remember after our first run, when we put the CP out, our first run of like real shows, we opened, we were the opening deal for a 2-day festival in Long Beach, and had like Dustin Lynch and Parmalee and a couple acts like that on the bill.
Parmalee's so underrated.
We then right after that, we did this deal with Cam. You remember Cam, Burning House?
Yes.
Killer Boys.
Yeah.
We did this deal with Cam and Chris Young. And then the weekend after that was in north of LA at an opening for a festival with Easton Corbin.
Nice.
And then a couple weeks after that, we went back up to do this Nevada deal, which really was kind of a big name festival that allowed us to get the other bookings. And we opened for, I think, it was a 2-day deal, but Old Dominion was there. Jake Owen was the headliner. Joe Nichols, like just a bunch. Cam was there again. And so I came home from that, and I was like, I'd kept some of the contacts for the booking people that I'd hung out with. And I called one of them. I'm like, I don't want to go back to playing bars again. Like, please, like, I don't care what I got to do. Like, please just help me not go back to playing bars. And so she goes, well, there's this thing in Nashville every October called AIBA, and it's an entertainment buyers festival. And you can get in if you pay for the fee and just go as like an artist. Like, they won't stop you from doing that. So why don't you go with us? And so I did that for a couple years. I'd come out here and I'd start meeting more people in town, and kind of turned into like, oh, I'll come out here and write and whatever. And man, I was just flying out here for 2 or 3 days at a time just to be around. I wanted to be out here for so long.
So what was the time frame from like that first gig to being in Nashville writing?
If I had to think about it, like, from our like the first year or so was kind of rocky for us trying to get it off after that, like, just because we couldn't get a foothold at actual bars out there. It was probably 2 years.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, probably 2 years
That's
before the
not
band
bad
was
at
out here
all.
doing stuff. I was fortunate in that I didn't have kids at the time. I met, like I said, I met my wife Taylor shortly after the band got going. But we didn't have a lot of responsibility, and I was making pretty good money valeting. So I just had spare income to throw at it to get out here. And I had buddies that, like I said, that would let me crash on a couch or whatever. For a while, a buddy was helping me. He wanted to see me make it, so he threw me, helped me with a little bit of travel expenses and things like that. But I made an effort to try and be out here at least every month and a half.
Okay.
If I could. But yeah, it was, I would say, about 2 years. And that was after the recording process. I mean, we came out here blind. We're like, oh, we're going to go record some songs. And like, I don't know how like versed you guys are in the session world out here, but I kind of lucked out. So on my first session, I had a couple guys that like they were available, and they were kind of on their way up. And like one of them now is Derek Wells. You can't even get a hold of Derek Wells anymore. He's like one of the biggest guitar player producers in this town. But I just kind of made some nice contacts through them and really leaned into those contacts. And I think if I could take it back a notch, because I'm incredibly fortunate with all that, I think the biggest thing that a lot of people need to know is the best thing you can do in this town, in this industry, is just be nice to people. Like, it's so funny to me when I find these
ain't
never
that a
said that
concept? Ain't that a fucking concept?
Yeah.
Just be nice to people.
Just be nice to people. Because, I remember learning that from my buddy Tim, who had played acoustics, as he laid down this part. And I'm like, I can't fucking play this. And I have to in 2 weeks. Like, how am I going to fucking play this part? And I reached out to him, like, look, man, like, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I can't figure out this part that you laid down. And I'll pay you if you'll send me a video. And he's like, oh, what is it? I sent him, and dude, that night I got a video. He completely broke everything down. And then I stayed in touch. And long story short, that's how actually the backing track started. Because then it was like, well, we kind of need a backing track for this song to really make it work. And I called him. He's like, oh, dude, I do that all the time. And so that's how we started getting into backing tracks. Our first backing track was Keith Urban's Somebody Like You. Because it's like, there's no way we can do that banjo part and make it sound good. And so that's really where it kind of started adding up. But, in staying close with those guys, like the session guys and the touring players that I'd meet on the road, that's how I kind of made my way into things in this town. Like, there's no ego with most of those guys. They're good old boys that are just working.
Yeah, they just have great work ethic.
Yeah,
is what it comes down to.
You don't run into any of that artist bullshit that you see. There's no ego. They don't need to be anywhere. They're not hiding. They just want to hang out. And so I've made a lot of my friends in this town through that channel. And those guys all know each other. Like, I got to, who you playing with at this festival? Oh, so-and-so and so-and-so is on the bill. And they're like, oh, I know this guy. I'm going to connect you on a text. Go seek him out. And you just make friends that way.
I can't tell you how many times that happened to me. Like, people are like, oh, yeah, hey, I know this person. You're on that tour? Yeah, here, I'll text them. And sure enough, like, I'd be standing side stage, and they come up and start talking to me. I'm like, oh, hey. It does. If you're just nice to people, kind to people, and also just, like, you ask for help. Like, there's so many people here that are just willing to help because they know what it's like to have been in that situation before. And they're all just here making music, having a good time. Like, ask for some help. They'll help you.
Yeah. And, and there's something to be said for that, like, especially in the age of social media and all that. Like, I'm obviously on the Not So Lame page. Am I supposed to talk about that? That was a
You
private
can say
page.
you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the Not So Lame page because I remember it was like really private and I had to answer a bunch of questions to get admitted to it.
Gatekeeping.
But that's fine. It is what it is. Who runs that? Sasha?
Sasha and Cindy.
Sasha, if you're listening, thank you for allowing me on that page. But yeah, that, and then there's like a Nashville Songwriters one, and you always get those like handful of players that are just so shitty and spiteful
Yeah.
when people go on there and they legitimately want to ask. Like, I think one of the biggest things that drives me crazy is like, I'm thinking about moving to town. Where should I start? And everyone's like, don't
do it.
Don't do it. And it's like, no, dude, fuck that. Move here.
Yeah,
Move
give it a
here.
shot.
Do it. Like, you don't, if you're not ready for it, like,
You'll find out real quick.
yeah, you'll find out.
But
Like,
you'll also figure out what you need.
I strongly suggest coming out, but man, if it weren't for me trying to figure it out, I should have been out here a lot longer and sooner than I was.
Oh, I wish I was out here 10 years earlier than I was.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, we'd all be sitting in the real estate on the real estate.
that too.
Right.
Yeah, we'd be Scrooge McDucking it with all our real
Oh
estate
yes.
money, swimming in change. I just don't be discouraged if this is what you want to do. And I don't
Right.
care if you're good, bad, or otherwise. Get out here, rub elbows, learn what it is to be a working musician, whether it be full-time or part-time or double-time like you. And do it. Live the life, and I don't think also you don't have to subscribe to just one person's way. There's not like one way to do this.
No, not at all.
And talking to everybody that we have and interviewing everybody, I've learned that we all have a lot of similarities in our stories, but everybody has done it differently. And it's proven time and time again that if you want to do it, that's all you need is the will to just do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, it's presence obviously helps, and I hate the whole you got to be present to win, but you obviously have to come here if you want to do it.
Yeah.
But be nice, and just take the chances. Like, you just have to take the chances. And I'm not an introvert, but I'm also not like the guy that walks in the room and thinks that I need to be acknowledged. So for me, it was always real intimidating, like going to a whiskey jam for the first time alone, or walking into bars on Broadway and trying to meet people on those trips, or walking into a blind right. Like, I was always really, really nervous about that. It's just kind of the way I am. The guy Scott on the couch versus Scotty on stage, those are two different people. Scotty on stage, I've been curating that character for 10 years. Like, that's where I'm comfortable.
I try to tell people all the time, they're like, oh, you must be such an extrovert and this and that, and you must be so talkative and love people. And I'm like, man, I'm a completely different person off stage. It's me in character form. Like, it's something I have been working and building literally since I picked up my first bass.
Well, and it's, I guess, hyper idealized or hyper romanticized. Like, that's like your superhero alter ego. That's the guy that you wish you could be. So that's your outlet to channel that.
It's you, but with the parts you like highlighted.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm still that same person off stage, but I'm much, much more reserved.
Yeah, the compressor's turned up.
And I've said a dozen times, like, that's my comfortable space where I get to be the version of me that I like. And that's why, again, I've started cutting back so much, because I'm not playing with people that take away my comfortable space.
I love that.
I want to be able, like, if I'm happy and I'm feeling it and everything's good, I want to play with you.
So I want to touch on that a little bit. And you were talking about the Not So Lame page. Ever since I got off Facebook and I got away from seeing how many gigs people were playing a day and where they're playing and who they're playing with, and I didn't feel like I had to do that anymore. I was able to just focus on what I wanted to do, and it brought the enjoyment back because I was so burnt out. I was doing doubles and triples every day. I was playing 15 plus gigs a week. And when I stepped away and I was like, nope, here's the bands that I play with. I make some pretty decent money with them. I'm going to stick with that. And then, like, if you call me Scotty, or if, like, Jericho Rose, if they call me, I'll fill in with the people that I like and enjoy sharing a stage with, but I'm done scraping the barrel, trying to see what I can get, trying to say, oh, I did 300 gigs this year. Man, is it a flex? Is it?
Maybe that first year you're here, first couple years, yeah, that's a flex. But after that, it's let's make each gig meaningful.
Yeah, I don't want to just be up there just because, I'm up there and I'm going to take away a little bit of money from this gig, and that's the only reason I'm here.
Yeah.
I want to be up there because I love it and enjoy it, and I want to share that with people, because that's one thing that I know I can do, is get up on stage and entertain people. Mm-hmm. They leave there in better moods than they did when they came in, and I know that. I can do that. I can't do that elsewhere, so.
But you're obviously financially stable, as reasonable as any of us can be, and you're busy.
Sorta. He makes poor financial decisions.
Shut up.
But I mean, that to me is the dream. That to me is the dream. And it's like, are you a full-time musician? It's like, well, I'm as full-time as I want to be. Yep. Mm-hmm. And this is what I'm doing, and it's what makes me happy. Like, if I didn't have, a family, I probably would have done like the 6-day-a-week thing. Like, I had a buddy fly out that I can't wait to introduce him to. He's a monster player. I'm trying to get him out here. I've known him since we were 5. And I took him down there while you were in New York.
Of course.
And we were walking around, and he was just like, this is incredible. This is like everything I hoped it would be. And obviously he's really only used to like the LA and Vegas scene. And I was like, yeah, dude, like if I was in your shoes, I'd be down here 5-6 days a week. It never, ever gets old to me. It's why I laugh when people shit on Broadway so much. It's like, dude, I get it. I get how it's not for everybody. Like, I get it. But it's to me, it's so magical down there. Like,
it is.
You can see so much incredible talent and the nonstop music. It's just like, it just draws me.
And it's also, like, when I first moved here, one of the things I was told was Broadway is where musicians go to die. And what that meant was, it was all these guys that were amazing and young and talented and on the road. And, well, their road time has expired, and so now they play Broadway, and that's how they make a living. So that's how a lot of the guys, when I was on the road, were saying, oh, Broadway is where musicians go to die. And I just don't believe that. It might have been a thing at one time, but now I really...
Broadway, and even the last couple of years, is completely different. So, like, what it is now and what it'll be in a couple of years and what it was a few years ago are all completely different things.
When I moved here, there were, like, 16 bars with live music. Mm-hmm. Everything else was some kind of shop or store. And now, just on Broadway, there's 48 bars. Mm-hmm. With most of them have 2, some have 3 stages. So that means you have over 100 acts playing every 4 hours. Mm-hmm. That's 400 acts a day. Mm-hmm. Think about that. That's incredible. There's nowhere in the world that's close to that. And then, like you said, the talent here. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some people that I've questioned how they got gigs, but most of the people here, amazing.
And let's be realistic. If you come in and you start playing and you're not quite there yet, you're going to get there so much faster because you are playing with some of the best players in the world. Like, the rate in which you will improve will be astronomical.
I had this conversation with somebody 2 days ago, I believe it was. I don't think I would have done Broadway or been the caliber of musician I am if I didn't say yes to that Legends gig with Bo Tackett. Because I was so scared. Because I was like, okay, these guys play with Blake Shelton. Like, I can't hang. There's no way. There's no way. And Philip and Bo, that first gig, did not let me fall. And if I'd have said no to that gig, I really don't think I would have ever gotten down there like I did. Well,
and I think that goes back to, again, those guys are the workhorses. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, and I'm just using Blake as an example because you talked about his band guys. But, dude, they're all down there.
Yep.
And this is why
his
the whole notion
band.
of this is where bands go to, or players go to die. It's like, the fuck it is. Like, there are guys that are on retainers with these huge acts and they've got their things going on, but that most of these people are actually getting kind of abused, and it's not the artist's fault. So for anybody's listening, like, I don't want to put it on the artist, and I've heard enough stories, I'm not going to say names, of artists that are really, really good to their band guys, but a lot of these guys are on the road, they're not getting paid for their fly dates or anything. They're getting a flat rate. They're lucky if they get like a bullshit per diem, and they can go down to Broadway, make the same amount of money or more, and sleep in their own bed every night and eat right and live a normal life. And I know guys that kind of ebb and flow back and forth through that, and they left both sides of it. And to go to like the honing your chops thing, yeah, you're playing with some seriously high-powered musicians down there, and the good ones don't want you to fail. They want you to elevate to their level. You know, that's like a common thing. Like when, for example, when we ask you, like, dude, it's important to me that if you show up, you feel well paid for your time.
I do.
You get off that stage and can go, I had fun. And they, you know, we want you to be comfortable with us, not the other way around.
Right.
And I think that's like a common mentality with a lot of like pro level players. Like, dude, there ain't no point in, everyone's going to have a different skill set. We can't all be Steve Vai or Neil Peart or whoever. Like, so everybody needs to kind of come into it with that.
And to accent that, I have never been griped at after a gig from one of those pro-level players that are on one of those massive tours. Never.
So
they have always been so nice. The guys that yell at me are the guys that only do Broadway and are crotchety about it.
So, like, Bo, we were next-door neighbors, and that's how, like, we even met and started playing together. But we decided, we're like, oh, we're neighbors, let's just drive together. We'll save in fucking parking, like, you know, that's the smart thing to do. So after that first gig, like, I got in the car and I was like, man, I'm probably gonna get chewed out. I know I messed up a lot. And he was like, all right, man, you did great, but here's some things that you can work on, and we'll go back to the house, and I got some charts for you. And this, I mean, there was no making me feel bad. It was just, all right, here's what we can improve on. Like, let's do it next week. You know,
right?
And it's great when you're surrounded by those kind of people. And so, yeah.
Well, everybody brings something. It should go without saying that anybody that's coming into this town should have some sort of musical capability.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
if you're coming here to be a musician, you got to have something. And if they don't, that's cool too. Like, everybody's going to bring value, and you can learn or not, and then things will sort themselves out. But, like, man, I got to tell you, as like a compliment, like, and I'm going to start by complimenting, you know, your musical vibe, because, you know, what you bring to the table. You know, this guy he's my favorite bass player to play Neon Moon with. And I've told him this. And because there's a very specific thing about good classic country music, and it's subtle, but it's so important, where the bass almost kind of like pre-attacks before the kick hits. It's just slightest bit, but the bass is slightly in front of it on the attack.
Just a little bit of a push.
And it's so important for some of those old songs. And dude, I don't know if I play with anybody who does it better than you.
Thanks, man.
But we make so much money when you play with us as well, because you know how to do all that stuff and you play the game. And that's not to take away from any of the other guys that I play with. Like, everybody's got their own thing, but there's something very particular about just the good energy you bring to the stage and the way that you work things while I'm up there singing or Brian's soloing or whatever. Like, dude, we make good money on those nights that you're there, and there's value to all that. So if, like, the first time we played with you, you learned like 60 songs for us in the course of a week, came in, did a great job. Every time you come back, it's the same 60 songs practically, unless we add a few, and you're more comfortable with it, just like you are with Todd or with Hudson. And, you know, and I think a lot of people who give a damn see that, and they're like, yeah, man, this guy learned all this material real quick on the fly, you know, and came up and knocked it out of the park, and he was a good hang, brought good energy. That's the takeaway. Like, I haven't ever walked away from you know, we've had a handful of subs in this town, and I haven't walked away from one and been like, I would never call that guy again, because they always show up with the best attitudes, and that's the important part.
Yep.
It's just so important. It's so understated to just not be a shithead in this industry, you know?
Or just in life in general.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's that.
But no, and I mean, that's something that we definitely hit every time we have this podcast, is just being a good hang. Just having fun with people. Because there's players in this town, I'm not going to mention anybody, but there's guys that I do love playing with them. They're great players. But sometimes I just don't want to be on a gig with them because they're just jaded and they're angry, or it's just at the end of the gig, I'm like, I'm more tense than anything, and that's not how I should be leaving the stage. And I've never felt that with you guys. I've never felt that way with Hudson Valley or Todd, but Noah. But there are some players in town, and it hasn't even been artists. It's been players specifically for me. They just I don't want to give your number out. I don't want to use you as a recommendation. I don't want to call you for a gig because you leave me leaving that gig tense. Like it's not fun. And while you're an amazing player, and I know you can literally play any song under the sun, I'd rather have that guy that can only play 1,000 songs under the sun than
right.
That's in a good mood and a good hang. That's the truth of it.
Like, you botched that solo, but you were so fun is a huge compliment. Like, I don't give a shit about the solo. That was fun.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the truth of it. Like that's the truth of it.
And so, if we're playing stadiums and theaters and stuff like that and original music, it's different. Yes, let's make sure everything is absolutely perfect. I get that mentality. But on Broadway, and when you're playing 4 hour, not even on Broadway, just the 4 hour shows, and you're trying to just be out there and be entertaining for 4 hours, who gives a fuck if you miss a note? Who? Oh, we all kind of slipped up on the ending there. Okay, like
you laugh.
Yeah, like everybody look at each other, and I learned this from Dean Sizemore. Is like when I mess up, I just raise my hand. I'm like, that's me. And with like Hudson Valley, if I mess up, Richie will go to the talkback and be like, "That damn amp again," like it's just, we laugh about it
because it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't fucking matter at all.
And I'll go back if I really screw something up. I always go back and I'm like, all right, I'm sorry, it's going on my practice list.
There was a song last time I played with you. I don't know if you came. You did it was something that was noticeable to us. I don't think to anybody else. And you caught it quick and went right back into the song. You came up out of the song. You're like, all right, I fucked up. I'll fix it.
Well, and we used to do a thing back in the day where it was like, we only did it for a little bit. I think it went away when COVID stopped us from playing. But we had basically like a fuck up bucket, and it's like, that's a $1 mistake. And you had to throw $1 in the bucket for the tip pool, and we used to make it fun. It was like a fun way of calling each other out for the sake of bettering the unit, but also to make it lighthearted. But yeah, you get up there, and like my favorite thing to do is like sometimes, and unfortunately it's always John that I do this to, and it's not that he messes up a lot, but it's always like the most convenient like opportunity, and I'll always be like, John Geiger on the drums, everybody, when he like drops a drumstick or something silly like that. And that's just me and John's way of like kind of taking the piss out of each other. But it's always meant, we made that rule really early. Before the band was what it was, we had a couple people kind of in rotation, and we learned really quick that calling out the mistakes the wrong way just made for a really bad time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And a really bad discussion in the parking lot afterwards. And so it became a thing where it's like, look, if anybody says anything on stage for any reason, it's never personal. Never personal. Because it can't be. It's got to be about the team and making it better. So, we've had to, that is one thing over our 10 years where we've had to figure out like a very constructive way when something needs to be worked on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, easiest way to guarantee a fuck up is being nervous about fucking up.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and I can't tell you how many times I've been to concerts and seen these amazing players make a mistake.
uh-huh.
I mean, now, I don't think Tom DeLonge is an amazing player by any means. He's actually a really shitty guitar player live. He's a great writer and studio kind of guy, but when he's sitting down still. But when I went and saw them in Lexington, Kentucky, he just, I don't even remember which song it was. He completely botched it. Just.
I'm shocked to hear that. I kind of thought that they would have had to have stepped it up.
it was so loud in there, and I don't know if he had his ears out for a moment or what, but he came back into the song and just sang the wrong part, played the wrong part, and like you even saw Travis's head just like turn real quick, like look at him, like what are you doing? And the whole crowd caught it, like it was very obvious. And it was like 2 songs later, he went up to the mic, he goes, "All right, guys, just want to let you know that I completely fucked that song up." Like he owned it. Everybody laughed, and it was. And we're
But
human.
that makes for such a better show, in my opinion.
And we're human. It happens. I tell this story all the time. I used to play the Valentine's 6 to 10 Fridays, and then Old Red 10 to close. And I went from the Valentine to Old Red. And with Todd Cameron, I always say, "What's going on, Old Red?" Like I do a big old like shout out. Like we do the trash can. I shout out to the venue, and so I did it at Valentine. "What's going on, Valentine?" And then we went right over to Old Red, and I did, "What's going on, Valentine?" at Old Red. And like everybody looked at me like, "What? Like what did he say?" Like nobody realized I was saying another venue. They thought I was just saying something. And then like Todd's looking over at me just laughing. He's like bent over his guitar laughing, can't even sing the song. And so we get to a breakdown in the song, and I was like, "Sorry guys, y'all are Old Red. I said the wrong venue. My bad." Like own it.
Right.
Fucking own it.
I did that my first time in Old Red Vegas.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we got done with our first song. I was like, "What's going on, Nashville, Las Vegas?" And the guys were just, because I was just so used to it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with it being like the same venue but a different state.
Right.
And, I think Sarah, it was either Sarah or Todd. One of them did it because I've been out there with both of them. But one of them said, it was Sarah. She said Nashville in Las Vegas. And we were like, "Hey, we're in Las Vegas."
Yeah, you get used to looking at that red dog over the bar.
Yeah, I mean, you're in Old Red. You know, it happens. When mistakes will happen, nobody's perfect.
Circle back to muscle memory. Same thing happens in a song. Somebody hits a lick, and you're used to going to the bridge right after that lick. That's where you're going. Doesn't matter that they did it in someplace different this time.
Yep.
Happens to all of us.
Or you're so used to playing with bands, and then you go fill in or work with another band that does something just slightly different, and you, like you said, you hear
Forget
that
that
lick.
there's even a bridge there.
I 100 times I've done that. Probably more than that, honestly.
So that actually makes me think about something. Favorite and least favorite song to play on Broadway?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Yeah. It changes
Or if you can't think
so
of it
often.
like one that you're, when they request it, you're like, "Fuck no, not doing
So
it."
there's a handful that, like, for whatever reason, I just struggle keeping time in. Like, we move so much in those songs. Like, Mama's Broken Heart's one of them. Like, normally I can keep a pretty steady time, and I've got my little monitor up, so I'm, like, keeping track of myself. I'm checking myself.
I love that.
But that one, man, I'll jump back and forth 6 or 7 BPM. The whole song, just up and down. And I don't know why. That song is tricky for me. Also, don't like overly complicated songs because there's too much of a chance for big mistakes. So, like, Barracuda. I hate playing Barracuda. I will normally dumb it down to where I know I'm not going to screw it up. But stuff like that, I don't like. The stuff I enjoy is all, like, really groovy stuff. So, like, My Church is one of my favorite standards because it's super groovy and I can really kind of play around in my own little world.
How about you?
I hate Wagon Wheel. I hate that song.
Do you really?
I do. Like, in it, the hatred for that song came before me moving to Nashville. I've always just, something about that song I just don't like.
Yeah.
And so now that I play it all the time, and like, you see this, I'm singing along as happy as I can to any song on stage. I'm not going to let it known that I hate a song. But I despise that song so much. I really do.
We had to wrestle with that one. John was really opposed to it. It was kind of one of the ones on the no list for a long time. And we just kind of figured out a way to make it fun. He probably still hates it. I haven't actually checked in on him about that in a while because it was like a hard no for him for a while. But I get it.
The only time I heard a version of that song that I liked, and it was Lauren Rice. Is that? I think that's her last name.
I think so, yeah. I know what you're talking about. How
She-
they do like the
Yeah,
straight
do
rock
like,
version.
They do like a Blink 182, All the Small Things version, but wagon wheel, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's a straight double time.
It's just rocking and fun, and it doesn't really even sound like the song. It's awesome. But yeah, if I hear that song anywhere, I leave. If I'm not playing and someone starts playing that song, I will leave the room.
Noted.
If it ever comes on a radio, I change the station. I will walk out of the building. I hate that song.
That's
fair,
That's
though.
fair. What about you? What's yours?
I would say like my favorite songs to sing. My favorite song is Neon Moon's one of them. I mean, we played at the end of the night. That's our last call song. That's one of my favorite songs. But probably for me, performing favorite, "Live Like You Were Dying" by Tim McGraw.
Okay.
I love that song.
That song always hits.
Yeah, it
Every
hits.
time.
and
I get
it's weird.
emotional during that song.
It's
I
so
do.
somber, but then it becomes so like joyful. And I have a lot of really good interactions with people after shows from that. You can look out there and like it's a coin toss on a given night that you're gonna just look out and just see some grown man just bawling his eyes out to that,
Yep.
And I think that's a testament of a really good song, is when you can affect people that way, even if they're not at the show.
Right.
Like, I was talking with a buddy who played on that Shabuzi song, and we were going back and forth, and it just like it's the top like charting Billboard Hot 100. It's 17 weeks or something.
It was 16 weeks in a row, number one, fell off to number 2 or 3 for a week, and then jumped right back up to number one.
So we were talking about it, and I was like, what's funny, man, is we get asked to play that song every night. And to me, that's a good measure of how popular a song is. When you have people that are asking a cover band for it, you know that it's going to make it. And, I can think of a couple of songs that way, and some of them not so good. Dick Down in Dallas being a good one. Like, that's my one. Don't ask me to do that. First and foremost, I have a bad enough mouth as it is. I don't need to be doing that. And we actually do have a rule. I make this joke as part of the show, but we have a rule because back in the day when I used to drink a little bit when we play, I'd get a little rowdy and start talking shit into the microphone, and everyone's like, all right, we need you to dial that
I know
back
someone
a
like
little
that.
bit.
Who?
But so I have like essentially a one like serious curse word into the microphone a night kind of rule for me with the band. But that song, it's like, look, I got daughters at home, my mom, my wife's mom. They're all like, I don't want somebody to see a video of me singing that.
Right.
And I actually had some lady in Vegas that got really crusty when I told her I didn't know how to play it. And she's like, but it's $20. And I know we've like had this conversation, or you guys have I listen so often that I'm like, oh, I feel like you're part of it. You guys have had this conversation about the request thing, but it's like, look, your $20 isn't like making the four of us. We're not making our house payment off that. So don't throw that at me like I'm a jukebox and I should just be able to do this. But she got so put off and just nasty about it that I went back and I learned that song. And the next night I went out and played it when somebody requested it, and I changed all the words. So it was basically like a clean version of She's on a Date Down in Dallas.
So you know they have a Kids Bop version of that song.
I
right?
don't.
That's
I'm gonna have
awful.
to look at it.
They really do, and it's like I'll find it.
There
but
are lines that you should not cross.
Yeah.
There 100% is a Kids Bop.
That's awful.
I'm probably way too relaxed on the stuff that I let my kids consume as far as media, and I'm not comfortable with what you just said.
Yeah, that's strange. How old are your kids?
I have a 6-year-old and a 15-year-old, and then my
Okay.
girlfriend has a 6-year-old and a 15-year-old.
Okay. So we're almost in the same boat. So my stepson's about to turn 14.
Nice.
And then my little girls are 7 and 3. And my 7-year-old is very intuitive with the music. And so, like, I'll be working on something in the car and, like, singing along to it. And then, like, my wife's like, yeah, she was singing the lyrics to Last Night by Morgan Wallen this morning, and I think we need to be a little bit more selective about what's being played. And we're the same way. Like, we like to treat our kids like they're probably more emotionally intelligent than we should.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been around parents who are like, oh, you got to watch your mouth. You got to watch your
Donuts
mouth.
in Dallas.
What is it? Donuts in Dallas?
Donuts in Dallas.
That's interesting because I was like, she's on a date down in Dallas getting roses in Raleigh. Like, I just completely rewrote the lyrics out of
That's
spite
awesome,
for
though.
this bitter lady.
Like, I kind of want to play that version.
And I was
I'm
like,
not gonna lie.
you know, and it was like, now it's this really sweet ballad, and thanks for your $20, and that's what you get for being a jerk. And also, like, my one thing when somebody comes up and asks for that, it's like especially at the certain times, like at Old Red, it's like, man, there's a dinner crowd here right now. Like, there's a table of people over 70 that are enjoying themselves. Like, you really are so self-important that you're going to ruin a bunch of people's good time by making the band try and play that right now.
Yeah.
So that's probably my big one, and mainly just because it's just look, it's a funny concept, but it just doesn't need to be done.
Yeah.
Everything else.
Well, I mean, like Trey says it too. Like he hates that song, so I've been told. I haven't heard him say that, but people that play with him do tell me that he does hate that song, and it was done.
The guy Trey
yeah,
Lewis?
Trey Lewis. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it was done as a joke. Like it was done as a joke, and it just blew up on
Yeah.
TikTok.
And good on him.
Yeah,
Good
of
on
course. Like by all means, like make your money where you can. I'm all for it. But like
There are worse songs out there that aren't as crass that
Yeah.
have made more money, so why not?
Yeah.
Right. That's very accurate.
And I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure he also has a clean version of that. Like there's a radio version of that as well. But what I found was not a Kids Bop version. They're just calling it the Kids Bop version. It's on
Gotcha.
TikTok, but it's Donuts in Dallas. So I swear at one point not long ago I found the actual Kids Bop version, but I'm not finding it now. But I definitely did find there is some videos on TikTok called Donuts in Dallas. So if you want to look that up, by all means, have fun. But I feel the same way with that song. When it first came out and I was playing the late night shows, like I thought it was funny and I would make jokes about this is about my ex-wife or my ex-girlfriend or whatever, you know. My ex-wife was a saint, so I don't actually mean that when I say that. It's a joke on stage, guys. But
when I said that, I meant it.
yeah, we're in different situations, bro.
Very different.
Very different. But you know, like I play a morning shift at Whiskey Row, and sometimes it's all ages, and sometimes it's just 21 and up. I don't know what determines that, but we've had people come in and ask for that song, and there's like kids sitting with their parents, and like like you said, older people hanging out, probably in their 60s, 70s, having lunch, and like we're playing a lot of 70s to 90s country, and they're let me hear Dick Down in Dallas, and we're like, God, damn it, no. And then that's like for Noah, he's and a lot of people in town have the whole $100 rule, like $100 for Freebird, $100 for what's the fiddle song?
Devil.
Devil Went Down to Georgia, and then $100 for Dick Down in Dallas. And then some people have other ones they like to add on to that, but those are pretty much the top three in almost any bar. That
Yeah, it sounds about right.
if you want to hear it, it's $100.
One of the biggest ways to make sure I will never play your gig again is if you disrespect the audience like that. Like if there's kids in the crowd and you're playing stuff that you shouldn't be playing, that's a guaranteed way to make sure I'm probably not going to take your gig ever again.
Well,
That's fair.
I remember y'all talked about this a couple months back, and there was kind of the subject of like drinking too much on stage and things like that. Like there is an association factor to that, where it's like, oh, well, you were playing with this person when they were acting this way, and you're clearly part of that outfit. And yeah, if you're trying to do anything career wise, like you just don't want any of that, like, well, you're not welcome back in here kind of thing,
right,
going on.
I mean, there's people, I'm sure, even though now I'm sober, there were people that fired me when I was drinking because it was an issue, and they still won't hire me, and because that's how they associate me, and that's fair.
It's a tough thing to get away
you're
from.
filed under that category in their subconscious, so they
That's
it
why
doesn't matter.
That's why these last 2 years I've made a hard shift in my life. You know, I like my job and I want to keep it.
Well, and man, those shifts, they're arduous. It's hard work. And when you start adding alcohol into the mix, and then you got to drive home late at night and all that, like, I mean, as you know, we play dry. Not like dry. I'm sober. We play sober, I should say. Yeah. I know Brian and John usually like to kind of sip something. But they're a one drink a night kind of people. Aaron usually doesn't drink till the end of the night. I personally can't sing and drink, so I'll wait until last call. If somebody wants to hand me something, it's just sitting up there waiting. I have admittedly, in Vegas, it's like people are trying to buy us rounds, and I'll tell them, like, send me up. We drink silver tequila. The one that has a lime in it needs to be water, please. Because it's like, look, I'm not going to deny the bar those sales. And I figured that out a long time ago. Same reason why at last call I put it out there like, hey, you got enough time, go get 2 drinks. Don't want 2 drinks? Get me 2 drinks. I've been singing all night. Like, I don't need that. But the bar deserves that push. And that is my other main goal being up there is we're there to make those people money.
Yeah.
But you can't do it and get hammered. And man, sometimes I'm blown away by the amount of drinking that I see on some of these stages out here. It's like, I don't even know how you can function.
I don't know how I did it, to be honest with you. Like, looking back, there's videos of me. I have video of me before and after shows, and I sometimes I look fine, and I know how much I drank that night, and then there's nights that I thought I was fine, and I clearly wasn't. And I've noticed a huge difference in myself, my attitude, my playing, and my performance since I've quit drinking, and it's been so much better. And I don't think I'll ever go back to drinking ever again. But if I did, I definitely couldn't do it on stage.
Yeah.
Like it would kill it for me. And I don't know how people do it.
This is always a really unique conversation for me because I've never drank. Like, I've always been sober. There's been like 3 times in my life where I've drank enough to even actually feel it. But the most, like, if somebody would buy me a beer at a gig or something, I would take a sip while I'm talking to them and then set it down on a table or something and just walk away. So, like, I've always been sober. So it's such a unique perspective shift to hear people talk about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't make me sound like I have a problem, because I don't. But I do enjoy drinking. Mm-hmm. I enjoy social drinking. And man, I like to get out there when it's appropriate and tear it up. But you just got, I don't know, man, you got to be careful with that. And without I'm just going to share this because I feel like we're in the safety tree. I went down with my wife honky tonkin' on Broadway not too long ago. And dude, I woke up in Ascension Midtown. I just was severely dehydrated, hadn't eaten all day, had nothing but iced tea, Red Bulls, caffeine drinks. We went to a concert, decided to go out afterwards. Nothing happened, but I blacked out walking to the hotel, woke up in the hospital. And it was like, you were severely dehydrated, basically malnourished. And make no mistake, the alcohol was the catalyst. Like, I
Absolutely.
drank, I was ready to rock and roll that night. And it had been out, we got kids. It's hard for us to get out. And I felt it was hands down the worst day of my life. Worst day of my life. I laid in that hospital bed all day. They kept me overnight again, because they needed to monitor my heart and all that. And, and they all were talking to me, and they were so kind, but they thought I was a tourist that was just down there partying. And I was like, no, like, I live here, I work here, and I'm so embarrassed because, like, I play down there every weekend, and I'm sober when I play. Like, I am not this guy. I just needed to get out and let it out. And now I look down there and I see these people, and you realize, like, dude, like, how easy it is on that street. And I remember walking to the hotel. I remember being at a bar and talking to everybody and being fine, and then being like, it's time to go.
That's it. That's the name of the episode. I remember being at a bar.
Yeah. And I remember talking to people that I knew, and then I was like, time to go. It's all hitting me. And then the walk out, and I remember I went back, I'm like, they're like, no, man, you were fine. You just decided it was time to leave, like that. But on that walk, it was really bad. I remember, my wife was like, "Why are you so sweaty? What's wrong?" And I was fighting it. Because I just wanted to get back to the hotel. It's like, if I flop in the hotel and whatever, at least I'll be okay. But it's not going to happen here. And I didn't make it. And I bits and pieces of it came back, but this is the part, and this is where it's all going to wrap up. I remember hearing them fire up that fucking Kubota. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I heard them fire up the Kubota, and I realized where I was, and I was like, I'm letting go now. And I just went to sleep, and then I woke up in the hospital. And that was all kind of came back to me. But now I see people on that, and man, I just feel for them because you get down there. And I didn't start at 11 and, the day. I got started pretty much at 10 o'clock at night. And you have to be, I guess my point of even sharing this, you just have to be so careful. And and I've really, since then, man, I've scaled it back. Like, my dad always told me growing up, like, he was never into hard liquor. People buy him a shot. He always liked to drink beer that came in a dark bottle because he'd do the shot, chase it with beer, spit it all back out. He was never a big hard alcohol guy. And I don't know why at some point I decided, like, oh, well, tequila's got way less calories, like it's easier. Dude.
That seems to be a common thought.
Yeah. And so, now, like, I put a really good big governor on it because I spent 24 hours alone in a room while my wife was taking care of the kids, like thinking about, like, something about them saying, like, hey, there's something wrong with your heart. Like, really took me back. So yeah, man, I'm the same way again. Like, I just beer or something casually and I'm done,
man. And especially in this town, like, people that are visiting, never been here, they're all the tourists, we are so conditioned to the 4-hour shows. They're like, if we do drink, we can kind of time it out, we know what we're doing, but we're also there for 4 hours. These people aren't used to it. So they walk into a bar, there's a live band, and they can pick and choose whatever song they want to hear, and they're having a good time, and they're dancing. And the next thing they know, they've been down there for 12 hours, bar hopping, drinking God knows how much they've drank that day, and it gets the best of them every time.
Well, and it's kind of like that poor soul who fell off the bridge. I'm guessing we can close that college kid a couple months ago. We can speculate that he fell off a bridge. I think that's probably he either fell off the bridge or thought he could swim in the river. It's super unfortunate. But the vitriol and the nastiness on social media and the conspiracy and, like, I was there. I saw they walked that kid out the back door. It's like, there's no back door at that bar. You're not walking anybody about the back door and, like,
I've never ever seen anybody get walked out a back door of any of the bars if they weren't an employee getting fired.
Yeah. Right. And to be clear, like, if you're coming to this town, like, the bouncers that I deal with are all pretty nice, but they're more than happy to throw you out the front door where everyone can see it, because it makes a point about bad behavior. And then
they get to wear that as a badge of honor for, like, the next 2 weeks. Did you see Jimmy throw that guy out?
But, back on the drinking thing and why you got to be so careful is it's like everyone in the comments, like, well, one, they're blaming Luke Bryan for it, which is just absurd. Because they don't know how these licensing deals work and all that. It's like, dude, Luke ain't down there slinging drinks for these people.
Yeah, he literally signed a piece of paper saying, yes, you can put my name on your bar and all of my stuff in your bar.
And not to take away from some of the places, like, for all in, Blake Shelton does a pretty good job of being involved with Old Red for a guy of his level. I mean, he's in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
Aldine goes down to his place. For better or worse, Morgan is probably at his place. Kid Rock goes into his place. Like, I've seen enough videos to know that.
Has Morgan
Bon Jovi's at his all the time.
Yeah, he is at his all the time.
Like, all the time. It's like every other week.
Has Morgan been to his place since it opened?
Not that I've seen. I kind of assume he has, but I haven't actually seen.
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard anything since it opened about him.
Maybe he's not allowed.
I would tell you, again, just speculating. I don't know any of these people. Man, I feel like after the chair thing, he really kind of took a step back from being down there.
Well, that, and then with the whole, I mean, his sign still isn't up.
No, it's not. They're not going to give it to him.
Yeah,
from what I've read.
I think that's been kind of an eye-opener for him, being like, oh, I'm not as big as I think I am. Like, don't get me wrong, he's still a big star, absolutely.
Right, but when the city of Nashville is saying, we don't want that as, like, what we represent.
Yeah.
And it's sad. Like, I don't... Anybody, not make it about him, because I don't want to talk about him because I don't know him, but when you're in that position, man, you are the sole provider for so many people. And so when you see like somebody in that position, like in the amount of people that work for him and rely on him, and whether I don't care for anybody who's listening, like I don't care if he's canceling gigs because he's been drinking or he's sick or rehab, all the bullshit that goes around social media. You have to treat that position with so much due care because you're responsible for an army of people who are propping you up there. And so you just, you see that and it's like, you threw a chair off a roof? Like, what? Like, I guess I can't be surprised by anything anymore after that one.
Right.
I always say that I don't think I'll be surprised by shit. I'm like, yeah, I feel like I've seen it all, and something happens, and I'm like, well, I guess I haven't.
Well, and that was not on my bingo card.
That was my other question, because I actually did, when I was walking around New York yesterday, I was coming up with a mental list of questions because I wanted to be a good guest. So while we're on the subject of being careful, because if you are coming to Nashville, it's a free-for-all, man. There's hundreds of places you can go drink and all these things, and it goes nonstop. What's one of the craziest things you guys have seen from stage?
Man, that's kind of a tough one, because I've seen fights. I've seen people basically have sex. I have looked out the window of Kid Rock's and watched a homeless lady humping a fire hydrant that was turned on. I've seen a lot of.
I hope that this is on camera, because that was legitimate shock on my face.
Actually, it is on camera, because whoever was on. So I was on the.
No. I'm sorry. I meant our camera here.
Oh,
I don't want to see that. Maybe I do. I don't know. But that's. I was shocked.
Somebody on one of those levels. Yes, it is on camera here.
Yep.
But somebody on one of those levels was recording it, because it was on the not so lame pages, I think, or one of the Nashville pages. It was on there.
What was it? There was a really good Broadway Instagram page that used to showcase all that stuff.
Broadway Uncensored?
Yep.
That might have been it, yeah.
Is that still around?
That's the one I know. I don't know. I haven't seen anything.
I always wanted to do one called
They used to pop up all the time.
The View at 2. And just, like, if I could get off stage fast enough to just film everybody piling out of the bars and just, like, assemble this mass catalog of bullshit footage of how crazy everybody gets at 2 a.m. down there.
Yeah, I always love watching the couples fight. That's when I'm walking to my car, and you see the girl just like tearing into the guy because of whatever it is that he did wrong. Oh my God. I don't know the whole story as everyone's going on, but for some reason when I leave and I see that shit, it makes me laugh so hard.
Dude, Saturday,
probably because I've been
after
there.
the gig, while I was waiting to try and get out of the garage, there was a absolutely wasted young lady, and her boyfriend, I assume, but he was trying to pick her up and carry her because she couldn't walk. Well, he apparently was also quite inebriated, and he got her up and over his shoulder and then just went straight back. He suplexed this girl.
Oh.
She went face first into the concrete. Oh my God. Again, Nashville wins every time, y'all. Chill out with the drinking. Whatever you think you can drink back home,
you can't.
The house wins every time. Sarah says this every night. She gives a whole speech to people about an hour into our set. She's like, hey, one, if you're here with friends, don't be shitty friends. Don't leave them alone.
Oh, no.
Make sure everybody gets home. I don't care how piss-ass drunk Becky is and she's being a bitch. Make sure she gets home in her bed because she's still a human, and we don't like people ending up in our rivers and our hospitals.
Well, and not just that, man. Like, I think people take for granted, like, what is 3 blocks from Broadway.
Yeah.
Like, you got the state capitol, you got the prison, you got all that stuff over there. Like, there are some areas down there that do get shady quick.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there are some unsavory characters running around down there that don't get really enough spotlight put on them for their bad behavior.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And I don't want to like point anybody out, but you just got to be careful. You got to be careful.
Well, I've talked to some of the police officers downtown because I've just asked them, like, hey, do you like what happens when the homeless do things that you have to arrest them for? Like, they're like, well, it gets to the point where we stopped arresting certain people because they just go in and come right back out. Because they're homeless, they have no ID, they they can't just keep them there because the city's paying for them to be there every single day. So they'll take them in for a night. If they're sober enough, they'll let them leave. If they're drunk, they just keep them overnight and send them on the next day.
I think we need. It's gonna be so insensitive. I think we need inner tubes and life jackets and water bottles, and be like, "Here's your inner tube. Here's your life jacket. Here's your water bottle. You're a three-peat offender. We're sending you down the river to the next big city that you can terrorize." Can we do that? Is that insensitive? You're probably going to have to edit that out.
Well,
I'm not laughing.
Let's
It's
just
not
say
for homeless people. It's
we'll
for
give 'em-
repeat offenders. It can count for the frat boys and the assholes, too.
We'll give them the option, because I bet like 70% of them would take that as an option and then just go tubing.
I do feel bad, though. Like
I don't want to tube that river.
The one thing that kills me out here is coming from California is it gets cold, and it's wet cold.
Yeah,
So it bites.
it's a different cold.
And man, like this is the time of year where I start getting really like, so as I made a really shitty joke, like this is the time of year where I really do start thinking about those folks, like because it's rough at 3 a.m. when you're walking to your car in the winters out here.
Dude, I've seen it going home. I mean, they're out there sleeping in the rain or in the snow when it does snow, and you're like it. I don't even know what to do.
Yeah. So maybe I'll walk back. I don't know. It was a funny joke. I'm also the same guy that's like with problematic people. We need to bring back catapults. It's like we're just gonna put you on a catapult and sling like Simpson style, just sling you out.
It's
of
okay to say jokes. People have to understand, like, it's a joke. It's supposed to be funny. Haha. Like, no, I don't think anyone's
I don't want
taking
anybody
it
to come down and be
serious.
like, "Oh, you're the fucking guy who hates homeless people." And
No. It's a
yeah,
fucking
I
joke.
guess that's on record now.
I mean, look, if you live in this city for more than 6 months and you don't agree or laugh at that statement, well, then you don't know what the
Fair
fuck's
enough,
going on.
yeah.
Right.
when dude, coming from like Hollywood, oh, bro, I used to have buddies that used to go to Musicians Institute out there. There's some next level homelessness.
Dude,
in
San
Hollywood
Diego's
nowadays.
the same. Well, I haven't been to Hollywood, so I can't quite say. I've been to San Diego, and it's bad out there.
How was your experience with that in New York?
So I don't feel like maybe because there's just so many people during the day, I didn't see many, at least I didn't feel like I did. But at night, I saw a lot because I'm a night owl, and that city is alive all the time.
day.
So I felt comfortable enough being the person I am. I'm like, okay, I can walk around. I can kind of explore a little bit. And I saw some really, really shady shit.
Yeah.
I walked by a guy who looked dead. He was in a chair, like an office chair, and he was wrapped up in several articles of clothing, just layered up. And I looked at his hand because I saw something like hanging off his hand. Like I say, he looked dead. He
Yeah.
wasn't dead. He was just high out of his mind. He had a needle just
Oof.
hanging on his arm, and I was like, welcome to New York.
Yeah. You know, man, I'm out there like once a month, and I'm all over that city, and I just have not had a big problem with it. Like, and my mom has never been, and she's like, I was talking to her yesterday. I'm like, I love it. Like, I get to go out there just long enough to experience like what life is like, but without the actual burden of living in New York City.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And I love riding the subway. I love all that. And she was asking questions. I'm like, Mom, I'm telling you, like, all the stuff that they put out there, I'm there enough. I think it's very, very, like, kind of compartmentalized. And yeah, there's per capita, there's going to be a homeless problem there. But I kind of feel that our homeless problem in downtown here is more noticeable than it is there.
And I don't know if they just
ours is definitely noticeable.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and again, I don't know all like the California the New York laws and stuff for the homeless and whatnot, but here there's like none. They can just roam and do whatever at this point. We were a sanctuary city for so long. They just kind of do whatever. But in New York, I mean, like I said, again, I'm a night owl. I took the subway several times late at night.
Did you really? Oh, you're
Yeah.
braver than me.
And, I mean, I say late at night. I took the subway. The latest I took it, I think, was like 12:30, 1 o'clock one night. And there were people just kind of like me coming home from, like, I was coming home from just like, I went to bars, but I didn't drink.
Yeah,
so I went to a couple rooftop bars
You were
and shit.
mocktailing it up.
I
I
was.
watched your journey.
I was, man. And I got hot chocolate everywhere. They got hot chocolate all over the city. I love it. But
Now I want some hot chocolate.
getting on the subway at night, like, I didn't feel uncomfortable. I could definitely see how some of the females coming home late at night could feel uncomfortable because there's a lot of dudes and some of them look kind of shady, but never felt uncomfortable. I never felt like I was in a bad situation. I didn't see a lot of homeless people in the subway areas except for maybe once, and I think that guy was just kind of riding the train back and forth. I did see a homeless guy hop over just so he didn't have to pay. He just hopped over the
there's a lot
entrance.
of that. Yeah.
I did see some kids. The one guy's like card wasn't working, and he just goes, fuck it, and he jumped over, and his friend was like, well, what are we gonna do? And he was like, come here, and they went over to the side, opened up the door, and some dude saw it, so he started running, and they shut it real quick because I guess they thought he was gonna yell at him. He's like, no, man, help me out, and they're like, okay, and they opened it up for him.
And it's funny because it's like $2 to ride it, and if you live there, the card's cheap, but whatever, that's a whole nother thing. Yeah, I took my wife there last year, around this time, and so we went out the first night, and then we'd had a couple drinks, and we were just having a good time, and she got all excited. She's like, I want to walk through Central Park. I'm like, it's like 1:30 in the morning, and and she's like, let's do it. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like that whole thing, like on Home Alone, where they say not to go into the park at night. Like there's bad people in the park at night. She's like, no, let's go. And I'm like, all right, well, we walk in it. We're in it for like 2 minutes, and a cop pulls up. And he's like, can't be out here at night. You need to leave. It's dangerous. And it's like, okay. Then we get up. She's like, let's take the subway like downtown. And I'm like, babe, it's like 2 in the morning. Like we don't need to experience it all tonight. Like I won't do it at night. I've done it once, and we ended up out like by where we were staying at the time, and we were in a really bad area because we didn't, we rode it too long and all those things. And
I know if you go up toward, I haven't gone up towards the Bronx yet. I'm going to when I go for Christmas, but I've heard that area is like the bad area. That's what everybody's talking about. Is like what's supposed to be really bad, but Manhattan and Brooklyn,
Queens,
like everything seemed pretty normal, and I guess it's because I lived in Houston, I lived in Nashville, I lived in 2 major cities, so I'm used to seeing homeless people, and again, I'm a night owl. I'm used to seeing night people. That's what they're night people. To me, I'm like, oh, okay, this is just like everywhere else. It's just more or less people.
Yeah, I've only been in one area on that island. I haven't been to the Bronx. I have some work stuff up there, but it just hasn't come up yet. I definitely like walking through Harlem. I've been to Harlem a couple times for work, and it's got its spots. But I would tell you actually of all the places, Atlanta's probably got some of the scariest spots I've been in. Atlanta's got some really sketchy areas.
Out of everywhere that I've played, Atlanta is by far one of the worst. And then, New Orleans was pretty sketchy.
New Orleans,
when I was there last year, because again, night owl, I would stay out till 3, 4 a.m. And there was one night that I walked back to the hotel, and I regret that decision.
Yeah, you got to like walk with purpose there.
Yeah.
And they'll even tell you like at night, pull up to a stoplight, check both ways and go. That's like rule of thumb in that city. And Memphis. Memphis is rough, and it's an unfortunate situation there, but Memphis is rough.
So far, every time I've been to Memphis, I've had pretty good time. Haven't experienced anything bad. So
they got good food there.
That they do.
They got good food.
New Orleans has good food, and New York, man, I'm going back for Christmas, and I can't wait.
Are you really?
Yeah. On my flight back, I looked up flights, and I found one for the 22nd to the 26th. And then I came home that morning at like 8 a.m., came here, changed, showered, went straight to my gig. We're playing at my gig, and then I get some notification from Southwest because I was looking at the flights. Mm-hmm. And it was like, you have flight credits you can use. And I was like, I do? I totally forgot that I had flight credits from like a year or two ago.
Oh, that's cool.
And so my flight was supposed to be $355 after the flight credits and taxes and everything at $109 round trip flight.
That's killer.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, this is a sign I need to do this because my family's not getting together this year for Christmas, so I was going to stay here. And I was like, Yeah, I could stay here, play a couple extra gigs. I'm not going to make much more than base pay. Or I could go spend Christmas in New York.
Dude.
And I've had a lot of people be like, "You're going to love it." And then I've had a lot of people like, "Oh, you're going to hate it. It's so crowded and so busy." And yeah, dude, New York's always crowded and busy.
Always crowded.
My first night there, I landed at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And by the time I got to the hotel and settled and everything, sun's going down. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go grab some pizza, kind of walk around the city. And everybody told me, I was staying by Times Square. They said, go to Times Square at night for the first time so you can see it lit up. Okay, I'll wait till it's night. So like, I think it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, all right, let's go down to Times Square. Let's see it all lit up. The amount of people down there at 1 o'clock in the morning in Times Square is equivalent to a 4 p.m. afternoon Saturday here in Nashville.
Oh, it's like shoulder to shoulder.
I mean, people out there, vendors were out there, people were out there set up with their photo booths for people to come and take pictures. Like, it was insane to me how busy it was at 1 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, when I go out there for work, if I do an overnight deal, I just love to go sit. I'll just even for 10, 15 minutes and just sit there. Have you been to?
I've been, but it's been a long time.
Man,
we went in high school.
That one section, it's almost surreal. Like all the screens going at once. It's just like, it's about the most visually stimulating thing you can see.
Yeah.
Like, and everything keeps changing too. So like you think you see something and you look at something else and you turn back and it's a whole different screen, whole different advertisement. It's nuts. It was insane.
We got so far off talking about the homeless situation.
We did.
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen from stage?
Mine's a lot cleaner than Kyle's. I was playing a morning shift, and I turned around and looked out the window, and there was a guy walking 3 goats down the sidewalk.
Yeah. Yep. I saw somebody with a Highland cow down there not too long ago. Walking a Highland cow down Broadway.
Then there's the guy with the squirrel.
Yeah, the dude with the parrots.
Yeah,
he's that
he's
guy.
around.
They had a private event one time at Old Red, and we were waiting to go on, and they walked in a donkey. And I was like, what kind of party's going on up there, guys? Like, that was wild. I mean, it had all this, like, shoes on it and stuff so they could take it up. But, yeah, when you see animals down there, that is interesting.
You know, so doing the private event at Old Red, I went up because the bathroom's on the 2nd floor. So I go up to use the bathroom, and I come out of the bathroom, and I'm looking at the picture wall right there, the height wall, whatever the hell you want to call that. And they have, from Madame Tussauds, whatever the wax place, they have the Blake wax figure with the guitar, and his legs were out. They had it just specifically for that event. And it freaked me out because this was after our gigs. Like, I didn't see this the whole gig. So I'm like, I go up there after the gig, everybody's leaving. I come back out, and there he is, the little wax figure. His legs are crossed, the guitar. It scared the living shit out of me because I was like, what the? Oh, it's a wax figure. That's weird.
That would do it.
So I pack everything up. I'm like, it's like 20 minutes later. We're done counting money. I'm like, I'm going to piss one more time before I leave. I go back up there, and there's 2 people up there wrapping him up like a dead body. Because, you know, they've got to package it up. So
right.
It was the weirdest. It was just so weird to me. It was so weird. I was also, I just got done binge watching Dexter. So, you know.
So you were in that mindset.
Yeah. It was just so weird to me when I like walked up there and saw that. I was like, what the hell?
The Abraham Lincoln guy is always interesting when he comes strolling in.
Yeah.
He comes through a lot.
Yeah. I always have to make the same joke every time. It's like, Abraham Lincoln, everybody, and they all cheer, and I'm like, keep him off the balcony. Every time. And I just look back, and John's just rolling his eyes at me. Too soon?
Someone else needs to be like, oh, shots fired.
All right, damn it. I hope he walks in next time I'm playing with you so we can make that happen. Shit, that's
This is why they don't let me have a mic on stage.
So, yeah, be careful. I guess that's the rule of thumb if you come out here.
Yeah, be careful. Just, if you're drinking, make sure you take a break, eat some food, and drink some water.
Ooh, there's a good... where can you get good food when you pile out of a bar drunk? Where do you like to go? Not, well, obviously sober, but where do you...
So
What's good to eat on
it used
Broadway?
to be Sicilian Pizza up there off of Union. That's one of my favorite spots because they're open super late and the pizza is really good and they got all kinds of food too.
Isn't there one in that parking garage now? Like one block back, like past Legendary Milkshakes, there's like a parking garage where they set up some sort of pizza place
don't
up
know
on the
about
second
that.
floor. I'm gonna get a photo of it.
I don't
for
go
you.
that way.
Ooh, I'm so curious now. I'm so curious. There's another spot. I'm trying to think of it. Like, why can't I think of it right now?
The Euro cart's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of those food
one of my
trucks,
favorites.
man, they
They're
are
legit. They're legit.
They're some of them that have the food sitting out all day. I won't go near.
Right.
But the ones that they're constantly just cooking, yeah, those are the good ones.
Did you ever eat with Tyson, the dude who did hot dogs directly in the driveway behind what is now Cane's, and he lost his spot? Oh man, that's one of the best hot dogs. Like
think
it's
I did.
so good.
I've had a lot of hot dogs on Broadway.
So I usually Friday nights after Snitch, I'll get Daddy's Dogs. And
Daddy's
then
Dogs is good.
lately, just because it's there and they're usually open an hour or two after the bars, Cane's. That's been
Yeah,
another
well,
spot I've been hitting
and
up.
that's kind of changed the game now. But if you are coming to town and you're getting your honky tonk on, and like give those street vendors some love because
Dude.
it's good food.
Yeah. And
Corner Pub's one of my favorites.
Which one?
Corner Pub.
are they
Okay.
open late?
I don't know how late they're open, but they don't have live music anywhere near them. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to go in and just kind of chill.
Yeah, I went to a Stillery 2 days ago with my buddy Lincoln from back home. Man, their food is so good. Now, I don't think they're open late either, but now I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with Second Avenue because Second Avenue used to have a bunch of late night spots, but since it's been through the bombing and
when
revamped,
I came to town,
curious to see what happens.
if you went up Second, and I think it was on the corner of Church, I'm not sure. There was a little Mexican place, and you could go in there and get like massive burritos for like $3.
Oh man, the world
Like the
needs
food
that.
was so cheap, so I ate there all the time, and then one day it was just gone. Probably because the food was so cheap.
Yeah, and that's kind of the drag. Like I'm all about like what's going on down there. I am of the mindset like the more newness the better. And not that like dude, my favorite place to actually go eat's Robert's down there. Nobody ever talks about how good that hamburger is.
Bro, Roberts has
I've
great
never
food.
eaten there.
You've never eaten there? Dude, their hamburger.
Dude.
If you want a no frills burger, it's the best. It's cooked perfectly every time. It's the best hamburger you can get in this town.
Next time you just have like a day kind of off that you don't have much to do, or maybe like whenever we do a podcast a couple hours before, go down to Roberts, hang out for like an hour, listen to the music, and have lunch. It's such an awesome little experience.
It's like $6 if you. I don't do bologna. Like I've
Oh,
just
the-
never
the
had. But
fried
if you like
bologna.
$6 for bologna, moon pie, and a PBR. Their
And a bag of
recession
chips.
special. Like it's very affordable to go eat there for Broadway.
Okay.
And you get to listen to obviously. I like it because it's real old school, good pickers. They're playing good country
Yeah.
music and all that.
And those are literally the best musicians
Yeah.
on that strip. Like
yeah, if you're coming to
you
town, you gotta
could
stop
not
at
just
Robert's.
be anybody picking up a shift there. Like,
Right.
You have to be approved to play there. It is
Well, they got
insane.
guys like Daniel Donato that go in there. Like it's the best of the best of that niche.
Yeah.
You're also not going to go in there and get Living on a Prayer for anybody who's listening. Like you're not hearing anything from past the mid '70s. I think.
Yeah. I mean, shit, Billy Strings played at the Ryman and then literally just went in there and played for like 4 hours, sat in with the band for 4 hours and played one night. Just hung
That's
out.
awesome. In
But-
general.
We're a little over time today, which is okay. I've really enjoyed having you on,
dude.
man.
I'm sorry. I like to. I babble
The
too
listeners
much.
deserve it. They've been waiting a
I
long
know,
time.
They have. They
We've
have.
sucked at this lately. Between me being sick and me being sick and me being sick, it's been
And
hard.
then me being out of town and me playing multiple gigs and me being sick. Yeah, it's
been
welcome
hard.
to life.
Yeah,
And it doesn't help that we do live like an hour away from each other. So,
yeah,
but
that's accurate.
Scotty, thank you so much for coming in, man.
Man, thank you for having me. I hope we covered something. I just feel like we've been hanging with mics in our faces.
I mean,
It's
that's
been very
that's
comfortable.
that's what the podcast is about.
That's why we do it. It's for us to sit down and just bullshit and talk for a little bit, get to know you a little bit better.
Well, I want you guys to know, like I made the joke, I do listen a lot. I love this podcast, but your text yesterday like made my whole day.
Oh,
Yeah, I I feel validated on a very professional level to be invited to this and just talk shit about the stuff that we do every weekend.
Well,
there.
that makes me feel real good.
I mean it. There's a high level of validation that I'm going to get when I leave.
That does trigger my imposter syndrome. I'm like, no. Have you seen who we've had on here? These are just our best friends.
Do you see us?
Yeah, but again, we're all just dickheads playing guitar. But I don't think people lend enough credit, and I guess this will be my last rant. They just don't give enough musicians on Broadway credit. And if you're coming to town, or if you're a tourist, or if you're a musician, like, yes, you can get down there and get called onto a gig with somebody that's out playing with some of the biggest stars in this industry pretty often.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same point, the big, handsome, tattooed guy with the green mohawk has played 94 songs in the last 6 hours. Half of which he may have had to figure it out on the fly, which most of these people are doing. And there's a very particular, it's a skill set. And I mean, there's some talented people down there, and you dudes are deep in it. So I just have so much respect for players in this town who get down there and do that. So I'm glad to be in the room with you today.
Oh, thanks, man. That makes us feel real good. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I used to do a bit where I would do like a last question. And it's an ending question, and I want to bring that back. So I've got an ending question for you. Since you are an avid listener of the podcast, if you could change one thing about it, what would it be? Have to answer.
Man, what would I change about it? I wouldn't. I love this podcast. Like I told you, this is my late night driving stuff when I'm coming back. And I love the fact that they usually run like 90 minutes because, between the topics you're on and when you guys meander into other stuff, it's great. Like, your guests are always relevant. I think maybe the one thing that would be cool for me, just being a music nerd, is like you'd had a drummer on not too long ago that was like a pro level guy that kind of comes in and out of town. Maybe more of that, like, because you are down there. Okay. We're down there rubbing elbows with some dudes that have really done some work in this industry, and I think it would be really cool to kind of hear their stories and hear from their perspective. Like Jake Gammon's an example. Jake Gammon's a pretty well-known touring player, but he's down on Broadway all the time. And so it's like it'd be kind of like fun to hear their battle stories and why they value getting on the small stages just as much as the big ones, maybe. So it's not something I would change, but just, oh no.
You're good.
It's not something I would change, but maybe something that I would say to add. Like, you're down there rubbing elbows with these people. Let's hear their stories.
Oh, we're definitely trying to. I've reached out to people. It's just a matter of schedules lining up. Is truthfully
that's always the hardest part. But yeah, in fact, we could probably reach out. I assume you're talking about Jake Summers.
Yes, that's who it was. Thank you.
We could probably reach out to him again and have him back on.
We
still had a lot of stuff we could have
between him and Matt,
and then Matt get him back on.
We could definitely.
Yeah,
and I would.
Who else is in Luke's band? Can we get them on? We've had
who I really want to get on here is Grady Saxman.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So Grady and I played together shortly for a very short period of time down in Houston, because he's like an hour east from Houston, something like that, and I was just like 30 minutes south, and we had mutual friends, played in a band together.
I think John's buddies with him.
Short period of time. I have his number. We're friends. I need to reach out to him.
Get him and Matthew Krause on here, because Matt has his modern drummer podcast or working drummer podcast.
Yeah.
And it could just be like a drummer's.
I've talked to them a little bit about doing something and like schedules and stuff. It just hasn't happened yet, but it has been mentioned. The seed has been planted.
Wouldn't mind doing a crossover with another podcast for an episode or two. I think that'd be kind of cool. I don't know that a lot of people really do that.
I think it'd be a great way, because like, even though like it's a drummer podcast, there's a lot of the same topics. Like, we're still talking about playing music, and we're still talking about our career and stuff. So like, yeah, that would be a good crossover.
Oh yeah, I think great recommendations. Absolutely. All right, Scotty, where can everybody find you? Where can they follow you? Look up your stuff.
We're under Scotty Mac Band on everything. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, albeit I'm not like super big on that. I do it, but I'm not active. But everything's under Scotty Mac Band, original music under Scotty Mac, and you can always find me at Old Red. I know that much.
Yep. And then also ScottyMacBand.com. You can find his website there, and all of his information's on there. Bobby, where can they find you at, man?
I'm at Story of Bob or Story of Bob Music everywhere. Super easy to find. Say hi.
And I am Therky Bass on Instagram and TikTok. Come over and say hello to me. Thank y'all so much for listening in every week. We appreciate you guys. Let us know if you want to be on. Let us know what you want to hear. Reach out to us. We're trying to do more. And I haven't really said it much. I'm going to go ahead and say it now. It's the end of the podcast. We do have a camera now.
And the light is still on.
This episode will hopefully be up on YouTube very soon. We're going to have a YouTube channel. I'm getting that all sorted out. So I'm trying to make some moves, y'all. Trying to make some moves. Scotty, once again, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate you, man. I love you, brother. You've become a huge part of my my Nashville family, and I'm grateful for you.
We're gonna have to now that we're ramping up into slowdown season, we'll have to get you over for one of those home cooked meals you never get.
Speaking of,
Dude, yes,
depending on when
please.
you're listening to this, happy Thanksgiving, or as I like to call it, Therky Day.
Oh, Bobby, what did you get today? What did you get today?
Oh man, I have been complaining all year that I didn't get a birthday. I walk in today and Kyle has a birthday cake for me.
I finally got. I kept saying I was going to get him a birthday cake, and I finally did. I had time today. I was like, yes, go get him the cake. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate y'all, and until next time, AMF.
Bicycle. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the podcast. We have a great time putting it on for you, so we really appreciate all of the listens. If you have any questions or want to reach out to us, we are on Facebook and Instagram. So if you just search Nashville for Nobodies podcast, we will pop up and you can interact with us that way. We also have some more options coming up in the future for interaction, so that'll be a whole lot of fun. So as always, it's never too late to tip your bartender, and please don't forget to tip your band.